MMAOB Daily podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, taking you through the latest in the world of mixed martial arts. Guys, follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. This podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com. Please go to our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. I appreciate that, guys. Also, check me out at bjpen.com and MMARings.net. So, not a big show today. There wasn't a ton of news, but definitely a few things to mention, as well as a pretty good fight announcement here. So let's just get right into it. By far, the biggest piece of news that came yesterday was Frankie Edgar announcing his move to Bantamweight. This is a long time coming. Frankie Edgar was a former, obviously, lightweight champion of the UFC, competed in the featherweight division for like the last 7 years. But the last fight with Max Holloway, we all saw how small he was compared to Max, and I think this is a great move for Frankie Edgar. He is 37 years old, so he's going to be cutting weight at an older age to make a weight class he hasn't competed in before, but I think he can make the weight safely. He wouldn't be doing this otherwise. He's only 5'6". He's a small guy. I think bantamweight's a great spot for him, and it opens up so many possibilities for him. I mentioned this basically after the fight with Holloway was done, but Uriah Faber, first off, Frankie Edgar beat Uriah Faber a few years ago, right? So Uriah Faber comes back out of retirement, beats Ricky Simon by knockout, and then everyone's talking about a title shot for him. I'm not sure if he's going to get that title shot now, but people were talking about it. So why can't Frankie Edgar go down and beat someone like, say, even Ricky Simon, who, by the way, called out Frankie Edgar, but Jimmy Rivera, for instance? How if he goes down and fights Rivera or something, the top contender like that, or even a guy like Sterling, goes down there and beats them, he's going to get title shots. So I think it's a great move for Frankie Edgar. It's a good new start in his career. It's the third start of his career. And it'd be kind of crazy, though, if he did end up fighting for a title in a third different weight class after being a lightweight champion back in 2010, 2011, and then fighting in featherweight since 2012. So the guy is an amazing athlete, and, I think he's going to do really well at bantamweight, personally. Who would I match him up in the first fight? Well, I think Ricky Simon is a good fight. He called him out, and we just saw Ricky Simon against Faber. I think that makes a lot of sense for both guys. Edgar coming off loss to Holloway, Simon coming off loss to Faber. Simon calling a shot. I like that about him. If not Simon, maybe they won't want to give him that because the UFC's worried they're going to blow a prospect there. But you look at the rankings. I mean, John Dodson would be a decent fight, I think, for Frankie Edgar. Rob Font, like someone like that. But even if you want to go up like higher in the division, guys like Munoz, Garbrandt, these are all good fights. I guess Garbrandt wouldn't happen because he's also an Ali Abdelaziz guy, but someone like that I think would be a really good opponent for him. Also, Marlon Moraes will not fight Frankie Edgar because they're like really good friends. I don't think that happens. There's a lot of fighters in this division ready to go, like Thomas Almeida, Cody Steen, and Corey Sandhagen, even if he wins this weekend. So you know what? There's a lot of fights. I should say next weekend, but there's a lot of fights out there for Frankie Edgar. So I think the move to bantamweight's genius, great move. Everyone I think saw this coming. So awesome move by Frankie Edgar. He was ranked number 4 at featherweight. There's no reason why he can't be ranked in the top 10 after one win at bantamweight. Great move for Frankie Edgar, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does at 135. Will he be a champion? I don't think so, because I think guys like Henry Cejudo would beat him. I think that Marlon Moraes, they won't fight, but I think he would beat him. But then again, also Peter Yan, I think, would beat him. But there's guys like Dominic Cruz are older, right? Rafael Sensel's an older guy. Those are still two of the top 5 guys. So to me, there's a lot of opportunity here for Frankie Edgar, and I'm very excited to see what he does at his new weight class. Next up, Colby Covington is back in the news. When is he not, right? This guy is he's great at getting in the headlines. You love him or hate him, Colby Covington is really quietly becoming, I wouldn't say a star necessarily, but someone that's a very polarizing figure in the sport. The ratings weren't very good for that card on the weekend, by the way, but I will say this, that card was in the afternoon, so some people weren't able to tune into that time. They weren't used to that time. Maybe some people didn't even know the card was on at, 3 in the afternoon, right? So personally, I prefer those afternoon cards. I love them, but maybe it just wasn't the right mix that would have helped him out and become a bigger draw on that card. But I don't think it proves that he's not a draw either. I just think he needs a better opportunity on a pay-per-view in prime time against a bigger name opponent. And I mean, Robbie Lawler is a big name, but he's not a draw himself. And also the rest of the card was, I mean, Jim Miller, Clay Guida, it's a decent fight, but is that a co-main event? I don't think so. So I just wanted to mention that because I saw a lot of people saying, this proves that Colby's not a draw and people don't like him. I don't think people don't like him, but I think they still want to watch him fight. And I think people do want to watch him lose. Anyways, he was on a podcast with Misha Tate and Ryan McKinnell yesterday, and he got banned from the show. He was going basically at odds with the host of the show, and him and Misha Tate went at it for a little while. So, you know what? Like Colby said, he's like, I'll give you guys the best ratings you ever had. I don't listen to the Sirius XM show. I don't have Sirius XM anymore in my car, so I haven't been able to watch that show in a while. But I used to listen to it in the past. But either way, I mean, I think that's any exposure is good exposure, especially when you got guys like Colby Covington on there talking smack. So I don't think that was a bad thing for the host of that show, even though obviously Misha Tate was kind of offended by what he was saying. Next up, little piece of news here. I don't know if this fight's going to happen or not, but I wouldn't mind it. Ronaldo Souza wants a rematch with Kelvin Gastelum. I would actually like this fight a lot, but we'll see if it happens. These guys fought last year at UFC 224 in Rio. Kelvin Gastelum won a split decision. It was a very close fight. I think a lot of people thought Jacare won the fight. It was fight of the night. It was a tremendous fight. Jacare is coming off a loss to Jack Hermanson in his last fight. It was kind of an upset there, and Israel Adesanya beat Kelvin Gastelum. So both guys coming off losses, both guys coming off a couple good performances before that. I like this fight a lot. I think it's a rematch that makes sense. I like Jacare calling a shot here. He is an older guy now at age 39. Kelvin's 27, so and considering they have fought before Kelvin won, you'd have to favor Kelvin slightly just based on the age, I think. But Jacare is still a dangerous guy, and we saw what happened when he fought Chris Weidman last year. He still has got that KO power. We know he's got a great submission game too. So I like this matchup a lot. I really hope the UFC books it. I think it makes sense considering both guys don't have a ton of options right now coming off losses in their last fight in what is a very, very busy division at the top of the division right now. Finally, one fight announcement also in the middleweight division. I like this fight a lot too. Deron Winn is coming back to fight Darren Stewart. Like this fight a lot. Deron Winn coming off an incredible fight against Eric Spicely. Fight of the night. Amazing fight in his last fight. He's 6-0 now in MMA, 1-0 in the UFC. The guy's good, man. Great wrestling and really good striking too. Good chin. I like this guy a lot. I think he's really, really well-rounded. He's only 30 years old. So got to tighten up that striking defense a bit. He did take a lot of shots in his last fight, but he also gave out a lot of shots. And he takes on Darren Stewart here at UFC Boston. Darren Stewart, 10-4-1, no contest in his career. He has a 3-4-1 no contest record in the UFC, but he is 3-2 since moving. Actually, excuse me, he's 3-3 since moving down to middleweight, which I think is a better weight class. He's actually won 3 of his last 4 fights. So I've been pretty impressed with Darren Stewart lately. I mean, the win over Pavon Lewis was a pretty solid upset there. And then he did lose a close fight to Edmund Shabazian, but that guy's really good. So that's not a bad loss. And he had 2 knockouts over Eric Spicely and Charles Burr before that, as well as the loss to Julian Marquez and Carl Robertson. So I think he's improved quite a bit in his game. His striking looks really good. He's only 28 years old somehow. He looks a lot older, but he's 28. He's got a lot of KO power, obviously, and I think he's working on his cardio and his wrestling. So this is a really good fight, but I definitely have to favor Deron Winn, even though he is going to be a smaller guy in this fight. He's not a big middleweight by any means, but I do favor him just based on the undefeated record, the wrestling pedigree, and the fact that he did show a lot of improvements in his striking in his last fight. So I think it's a really good matchup by the UFC. Again, they keep making really, really good fights, and the matchmakers are doing a great job. Just going to check quickly to see if there's anything else I missed on. Okay, so Kayla Harrison's out there, and she's talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is also an Ali Abdelaziz client, and she says that she's the female version of him. So you know what? That remains to be seen. I think Kayla Harrison's an incredible athlete, no doubt about it. And she said the world's never seen an athlete like her before. But again, comparing herself to Khabib, I mean, that's some lofty expectations. She is a tremendous fighter, though, and I'm pretty sure she's going to win that tournament in PFL, get that $1 million, and then we'll see what happens. Also, I should say this. Peter Yan apparently wants to fight Frankie Edgar. I just saw that right now. So that could be interesting if it does happen. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to be it for today. That's all I'll talk about. I'll be back tomorrow for the Friday edition of the podcast. But once again, guys, thanks for tuning in today to the show. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. Check me out, guys, on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. This podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com. Check me out also at bjpenn.com and MMAratings.net. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Check out the podcast myself and Cole Sheldon did breaking down the UFC Uruguay card this weekend. I'll be back tomorrow breaking down the Friday news in the world of mixed martial arts. Until then, guys, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.